My name's Eli. I'm 34, and if you asked anyone who knows me, they'd probably call me the reliable one. Not the favorite child, not the rebel, not the golden boy, just the steady presence in the background. I'm the guy who pays bills on time, keeps his word, and remembers birthdays without needing Facebook reminders. The boring one, I guess. But in my mind, boring was safe, responsible, useful. My family, though, is the opposite of quiet. They thrive on noise, on big declarations, on pretending everything is perfect when it clearly isn't. Every gathering looks like a photo shoot, smiles wide, arms linked, but beneath all that warmth is a current of favoritism and dismissal. I've always hovered on the edge, included but never truly embraced. Invited to weddings but never asked to be in the family photos. Present, but not essential. And then there was Mason, my younger brother. The star. He's the kind of guy who walks into a room and people laugh at his jokes even when they're not funny. The reckless one who drops out of college, loses jobs, moves back home at 28, and somehow still gets praised for his charm and potential. My parents eat it up like it's candy. Mason's mistakes are cute. His failures are just a phase. Meanwhile, my steady life, a career in finance, paying my own way through school, even covering part of the mortgage when Dad's hours got cut, barely registers. But I told myself it was fine. I wasn't in it for recognition. I sent money when they asked, showed up to holidays, smiled through the digs disguised as jokes. Eli, loosen up, you're so serious. Wow, you made it. We figured you'd be too busy working. I laughed it off, swallowed the sting, and kept going. A part of me hoped that one day they'd see me differently. That maybe I'd be invited to sit at the metaphorical head of the table instead of always hovering in the background. That illusion shattered last fall. It started with a phone call from my mom. Mason had just gotten engaged to Brooke, a woman my mother had known for a few months and already referred to as an absolute angel. They were planning a celebratory dinner at a swanky rooftop restaurant downtown. Not the kind of place my parents could usually afford, which in hindsight should have tipped me off. Eli, sweetheart, my mom said in that sweet, syrupy voice she uses when she wants something. We'd love for you to be there. It's going to be such a special night. Of course, I answered without hesitation. Just send me the details. Then came the second part. And, if it's not too much trouble, we were hoping you might help with the reservation. Just to hold it. We'll pay you back. My gut knew what that meant. We'll pay you back, always translated into goodbye money. But like always, I agreed. I booked a private space for 20 people and put the deposit on my card. $3,000 on hold. I didn't even blink. This was Mason's night. And maybe, just maybe, this time I'd finally feel like part of it. When the night came, I showed up right on time, 7 o'clock sharp. I wore my best navy suit, polished shoes, new cufflinks I'd been saving for a special occasion. I even brought a custom card with Mason and Brooke's initials embossed on the front, along with a bottle of champagne. Walking into that rooftop space, I felt a flicker of pride. String lights glowed overhead, floral centerpieces lined the tables, and a jazz trio played softly in the corner. It looked magical. My parents were already there, drinks in hand, along with Mason, Brooke, her family, and a few friends. Laughter floated in the air. Clinking glasses. Warmth. I smiled, stepped forward, and raised the champagne a little, as if to say, I'm here. That's when Mason turned toward me, grinning in that smug way he always does. Oh hey, he said, barely glancing at the bottle. Glad you made it. Then, with the same casual tone you'd use to comment on the weather, He pointed toward a fold-out chair shoved against the wall, right next to a trash bin. Sorry, this table's for family only. But there's a spot for you over there. For a second, I thought he was joking. The laughter from the table, the way everyone avoided meeting my eyes, it felt staged, like some cruel prank. But my mom only gave me that tight-lipped smile she uses when she doesn't want to intervene. My dad chuckled awkwardly and lifted his glass. Brooke didn't even look up. And then, as if on cue, a few people actually laughed. My face went hot. My throat closed. I felt like I was 13 again, pushed out of a group photo at a cousin's wedding because I didn't fit the aesthetic. So I walked to the fold-out chair, set my bottle on the floor, and sat alone. I didn't even take off my coat. I kept my eyes on the tiny crease in the tablecloth, anything to keep from staring at the gleam of glassware at the real table. A waiter appeared like he'd been trained not to make waves. He glanced at the laughter, then back to me. "Are you with the party, sir?" I nodded. "I'm adjacent." He hesitated, then placed a single tall glass of water in front of me. No menu. No bread. He vanished. A gust from the patio door carried the sharp tang of the trash bin beside me. Lemon rinds, wilted mint, something sugary going sour. Great. I slid my chair half an inch away and told myself to breathe. It's Mason's night. Don't make a scene. Hold your spine straight. Pretend your heart isn't doing a dumb drum solo in your throat. At the main table, someone clinked a spoon against a glass. Heads turned toward Mason, who loved attention like it was oxygen. "Quick toast," he announced, arm around Brooke's shoulders. String lights threw warm sparks along her hair. She smiled the way you smile at a man who's never had to clean up his own mess. "To love, and to family." He lifted his champagne. He didn't look at me. My phone buzzed. Group text. Engagement dinner. Sent by Mom earlier. Photos flooded in. Mason kissing Brooke. Mom and Brooke cheek to cheek, perfect lighting, their foreheads touching like a magazine cover. Dad's arm around Brooke's father, two men beaming over their future. In the reflection of one frame, I caught a sliver of my shoulder and the silver lid of the trash can. I locked my screen. I tried to think of something neutral. The weather. The skyline. The jazz trio. They were good, actually. Upright bass doing a friendly heartbeat while the sax threaded through conversations. The band started, misty. I counted measures to keep from counting slights. A woman I didn't know, someone from Brooke's side, drifted over and set her clutch on my folding chair's empty side, like my table had become a storage shelf. She didn't see me. Or she did and decided not to. Either way, she placed the purse, smoothed her dress, and floated back to the laughter. The waiter returned and crouched slightly so he could look at me without being seen. "Would you like anything?" ordered. I wasn't given a menu, I said. He glanced over his shoulder. "They have a preset. Appetizers, mains, dessert. It's all covered for the party." He paused. "I can bring you a plate." I let the words sit for a beat. "Water's fine." He nodded. "Of course." He didn't push. He didn't pity. He vanished again into the safe invisibility that good service requires. A small ripple of laughter rolled down the main table. Brooke's mom had stood to speak. "From the moment I met Mason," she said, "I knew he was special. He made Brooke feel seen." She looked around at their inner circle. "And that's what family does. We see one another." I looked down at my hands. The cufflinks caught the light. They were tasteful, A gift to myself after a promotion no one had asked about. A little private ritual. Family sees you. I almost laughed. A brittle little sound lodged in my chest and stayed there. I took the champagne bottle I'd brought and studied the label. Brut. Good year. I'd picked it because Mason once pretended to care about vintages. Maybe he would have noticed if I'd set it on his table. Maybe not. My thumb traced the foil. I put it back on the floor like I didn't trust my hands. Another buzz on my phone. A text from Dad, sent to our immediate family thread. Great night. Couldn't be prouder. A beat later, Mom. Closest people, all in one room. Mason added a ring emoji. Then Brooke, a heart, then a sparkle. No one sent me a direct message. I watched the bubble of their thread pop and fade. I stood to go to the restroom, partly to move, partly to stop being the still object in the corner of their evening. The mirror above the sink was unforgiving. I pressed cold water to my throat and studied the man looking back. Navy suit. Clean shave. Eyes like someone had drawn a circle around them with a dull pencil. You're fine, I told the mirror. You're not 13. You're not small. The faucet hissed louder than my voice. On the way back, I slowed near the private room's entrance. Not to listen, I told myself. Just to time my return between toasts. But voices carry. Mom's voice, light and airy. Eli's very independent. He likes his space. A few murmurs of agreement. Workaholic, someone added in a sing-song. Mason again, easy and lazy, he's fine. He's, you know, Eli. Laughter, light, polite. The kind that says, we know what that means. I sat again in my corner. My chair creaked like a reminder. The band slid into something brighter. Plates arrived at the main table, steaks glazed like lacquer, salmon that flaked under silver forks, glossy vegetables, tiny roasted potatoes with rosemary sprigs. My water kept its chill, a thin line of condensation puddled into my folded napkin. If hunger was supposed to humiliate me, it didn't. The humiliation sang its own tune. A busboy accidentally bumped the trash can and murmured, "Sorry, sir," even though it was the can he apologized to, not me. He righted it with gloved hands and stole a quick, apologetic glance at my tie. I nodded like I was also part of the back-of-house team. The moment passed. He vanished. Brooke's dad rose next. He was a stiff man in a conservative blazer, a face practiced in polite severity. "To our daughter," he said, lifting his glass, "and to the good man who will take care of her. Tonight is about the people closest to us, the ones who will stand by our side." He scanned the table as if counting. His gaze skipped the dark corner where I sat. "Closest," he repeated, satisfied. "To family." "Family," the table echoed. I checked the time. I considered leaving. I pictured slipping the card onto their table with a quick note, "Enjoy. Congratulations," and walking into the cool air like a sane person. But then I saw Mom lean into Brooke for a photo, their cheeks together, and I stayed seated because I couldn't trust my legs to carry anything but silence. Dessert arrived like a magic trick. A layered cake with gold-dusted edges. They cut generous slices for their circle. Someone at the end of the table took a photo of the first bite, closed their eyes, and hummed, too loud, trying to be heard. I watched the city turn from copper to blue and then to black glass speckled with the lights of other parties I wasn't at. The sax trailed off and the band took a short break. Conversation softened. You could hear the clink of forks, the lift and set of crystal. My phone stayed face down. I tapped the rim of my water glass once, twice, like knocking on a locked door. Then I saw the waiter approach the main table holding the leather check presenter. He stood there for a second, polite and patient, scanning for the person in charge. My stomach tightened. He conferred with the hostess, who pointed. His eyes followed her finger. He looked confused, then thoughtful. He glanced at the POS screen on the small stand by the wall, at the name on file. He turned. Our eyes met. He walked toward me with steps meant not to disturb survivors. "Excuse me, sir," he said quietly, bending a bit so only I could hear. "We have the deposit on your card. Would you like me to?" He lowered his voice further. "Run the same card for the final? Or would you prefer to provide another?" The conversations at the big table didn't stop all at once. They slowed, then bent, like tall grass catching a change in wind. Faces angled toward us. Brooke's father set his glass down. Mason leaned back with a practiced smirk that almost hid his surprise. The waiter held the leather folder in both hands like something fragile and expensive. The room's sound narrowed to ice in my glass and the smallest hush of the city beyond the glass wall. I exhaled. I placed 2 fingers on the edge of the table to steady them. The waiter asked, gentle and professional, "Should I run it?" For a heartbeat. The silence pressed down so hard I swore I could hear the hum of the neon sign outside the glass. The waiter stood frozen, the leather check presenter balanced like a bomb in his hands. My mother's painted smile faltered, the kind of smile she used when company was over and she needed to smooth tension before anyone noticed it existed. "Eli," she said, her tone clipped but still clinging to sweetness. "Don't be dramatic. Of course you're part of this family. You know that." I slipped one arm into my coat sleeve, calm in a way I hadn't felt in years. "Funny," I said softly. "That's not how it looked tonight." Dad cleared his throat, his voice heavy with a warning edge. "Son, don't do this here. You're embarrassing your mother." Embarrassing her? My laugh came out sharper than I intended. "I was sat by the trash can for 2 hours while you toasted to family only. But sure, I'm the one making a scene." Mason finally found his voice, and as usual, it was coated in arrogance. "Oh my God, Eli, lighten up. It was a joke. You can't seriously be this sensitive." Brooke's father turned his head slowly toward Mason. His brow furrowed, his expression stiffer than the starched collar on his blazer. "You invited your brother here, let him cover the deposit, and then humiliated him? In front of everyone." The murmur that rolled through the table wasn't laughter this time. It was discomfort, low and shifting, like a storm gathering on the horizon. Brooke's cheeks went pink as she fiddled with her napkin, finally realizing this wasn't some light-hearted family ribbing, it was a fracture laid bare. "Dad, come on," Mason tried, leaning back in his chair. "It's not that serious. Eli knows we love him. He's just like this." He gestured vaguely toward me, as if "like this" explained everything. My mother's jaw tightened. "We'll settle this later," she said firmly, her eyes locking onto mine. "Now put your card down, Eli, and let's move on." I stopped, coat halfway on. That tone, authoritative, dismissive, like I was still some teenager being scolded for not emptying the dishwasher fast enough. Something in me snapped, not loud, but final. "No," I said. The word hung there, stark and irreversible. Her eyes flashed. "Excuse me." I slipped my second arm into my coat and straightened my shoulders. "I'm not paying. I wasn't part of your dinner. I wasn't part of your table. You made that perfectly clear." I glanced at Mason. "And you, the golden boy, you wanted this spotlight? Pay for it." Mason's smirk cracked, and his voice rose a pitch too high. "Don't be ridiculous, Eli. You think you can just walk away?" "I don't think," I said evenly. "I know." The waiter still lingered beside me, eyes darting nervously between faces. I reached into my pocket and slid a few folded bills into the leather folder, enough to cover my untouched water and the tip for his trouble. Then I closed it and handed it back. "Not for them," I clarified quietly. "For you." The young man nodded, relief flickering in his eyes. He retreated quickly, as though afraid the tension might scorch him if he lingered. The band, sensing the mood shift, ended their set prematurely. The last note of the saxophone trailed into silence. Every face at the main table was on me now, half shocked, half waiting for me to back down like I always had. But I didn't. I picked up the champagne I'd brought, held it for a moment, then set it firmly on the empty seat beside me. "This was for Mason and Brooke," I said, my voice carrying just enough to be heard by all. "But since I wasn't welcome at the table, I think it belongs right where I was, on the sidelines." A hush followed, sharp and cutting. Mason's face flushed red. Brooke looked away. My father muttered something under his breath I couldn't catch, and my mother pressed her napkin so tightly in her fist the fabric twisted. I turned, walked to the glass doors, and pushed them open into the crisp night air. Behind me, voices erupted, some raised, some hissing for calm. I didn't look back. The city skyline stretched before me, glittering, alive, indifferent to the collapse of one family's perfect facade. For the first time in years, I wasn't swallowed by their shadows. I was walking out. The night air was sharp against my face as I stepped onto the street. The clamor of the rooftop dinner dimmed behind me, muffled by the glass doors and the hum of the city. For a moment, I just stood there, coat pulled tight, hands trembling, not from cold, but from the adrenaline of finally saying, no. I didn't call a cab right away. Instead, I walked. Past glowing storefronts, laughing couples spilling out of restaurants, the honk of taxis and the chatter of people heading somewhere they belonged. My phone buzzed against my thigh, insistent and angry. I ignored it until the 10th vibration. Then I pulled it out. 17 missed calls. Mom, Dad, Mason, even Brooke. A handful of texts stacked beneath. "Mom, Eli, come back right now. You're being dramatic. Dad, this is not how you handle family matters. Answer the phone. Mason, wow. You embarrassed me in front of Brooke's whole family. Unbelievable. Brooke, I don't know what that was, but you ruined our night. You owe Mason an apology." I stopped under a street lamp, the light pooling like a spotlight on the cracked pavement. My thumb hovered over the screen. A younger version of me, the one who always swallowed his pride, always smoothed things over, wanted to respond. Wanted to make it right. But another part of me, the one that had been shoved to the side all night, finally spoke louder. "You don't owe them anything." I slipped the phone back into my pocket and kept walking. The next morning, my silence didn't buy me peace, it bought me escalation. My phone lit up before sunrise. Dad's name, flashing over and over. When I finally answered, his voice came through sharp, heavy with anger. "Eli, what the hell were you thinking? Walking out like that? Do you realize how much you embarrassed us in front of Brooke's family?" I sat on the edge of my bed, the blinds still closed, room dim. "Embarrassed you? I was humiliated all night. You didn't say a word. You let him sit me next to the trash." "Don't exaggerate," Dad snapped. "It was a seat, Eli. A chair. You always blow things out of proportion." My jaw tightened. "Would you have taken that seat?" At your own son's engagement dinner. Silence on the other end. Just his heavy breathing. Finally, you need to apologize. To Mason, to Brooke, to everyone. No, I said quietly. His voice rose. If you cared about this family. That's the thing, Dad. I cut in. I do care. I've always cared. But it's never been enough, has it? Mason can burn the house down and you call it potential. I help keep the lights on, and I get shoved by the garbage. I hung up before he could answer. My hands shook, but not from regret. By noon, the group chat lit up. MOM, Eli, you're tearing this family apart. Mason, bro, it was a joke. You've always been uptight. You seriously need therapy. Brooke, if you don't apologize, you're not welcome at the wedding. Dad, last warning. Make this right. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Then I typed one sentence. You made it clear last night, I'm not family. So stop expecting me to act like it. I hit send. A minute later, Mom replied, Don't you dare say that. I'm your mother. But the damage was already done. I tossed the phone aside and leaned back, exhaling for what felt like the first time in years. For once, I wasn't chasing their approval. For once, they were the ones scrambling. By the third day, the fallout had started leaking beyond the family chat. It began with a call from my cousin, Jenna. She lived 2 states away, and we only really spoke during holidays, so her name flashing across my screen surprised me. When I answered, her voice was hushed, like she was sharing gossip she wasn't supposed to know. Eli, what happened at Mason's dinner? I heard you, stormed out. I rubbed my temples. Let me guess, Mom called you. She did, Jenna admitted. She said you embarrassed everyone, that you refused to pay the bill out of spite. I laughed, a humorless sound. Out of spite? Jenna, they sat me by the trash can. Said it was family only at the main table. I didn't eat, I didn't drink, and then they expected me to cover the whole thing. Silence stretched. When Jenna finally spoke, her tone had shifted. She didn't mention that part. Of course she didn't. She sighed. Eli, I believe you. I do. But you know how your mom is, she's already spinning this. People are going to take her side if you don't speak up. I felt something tighten in my chest. This wasn't just family drama anymore, it was a campaign. That evening, I saw it myself. Brooke had posted engagement photos on social media. Perfect lighting, golden hour smiles. Captions about an unforgettable night surrounded by family. The comments section was full of praise. Beautiful couple. Such a lovely family gathering. And then one that made my stomach drop. Heard Mason's brother caused drama. Every family has one. The comment had likes. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a coworker, Rob. Hey man, he said carefully. Everything okay at home? Saw some stuff online. Didn't want to pry, but I closed my eyes. What did you see? Just someone commenting that you had a meltdown at your brother's dinner. That you walked out. People are saying you're jealous. The word stung more than I wanted to admit. Jealous. That was the narrative then. Not excluded. Not humiliated. Jealous. I clenched my jaw. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate the heads up. By the end of the week, I had stopped answering calls. My parents left voicemails that swung between scolding and guilt-tripping. Eli, families fight, but we forgive. You're making Mason look bad. Do you want that on your conscience? Stop punishing us for your sensitivity. The word kept coming back. Sensitive. The family's favorite weapon. But then came the text that pushed everything too far. It was from Mason. No pleasantries, no apologies. Just, you better fix this before the wedding. Don't forget, you still owe Mom and Dad for everything they've done for you. I stared at it until the letters blurred. Owe them? For what? For being the son they tolerated while they worshipped another? For paying their mortgage when Dad's hours got cut? For swallowing insult after insult in silence? My hands trembled as I typed back. I don't owe you anything. Not anymore. I hit send. And in that moment, I knew something had shifted. This wasn't just a fight, it was a break. For the first time in my life, I silenced the family group chat. No buzzing notifications, no guilt trap pings lighting up my phone at all hours. The quiet was disorienting at first, like stepping out of a crowded room into an empty field. But after a day, I felt lighter. I poured myself coffee in the morning without dread. I answered work emails without my pulse spiking every time my screen lit up. For once, my life wasn't tethered to their demands. But peace never lasts when your family thrives on control. 2 nights later, I got an unexpected knock at my apartment door. Through the peephole, I saw my parents. Mom's lips pressed into that thin line she wore when she was about to scold. Dad's jaw was clenched so hard I could see the muscle twitch from where I stood. I opened the door halfway, blocking the frame with my shoulder. What are you doing here? Mom sighed, brushing past me like she still had that right. We need to talk. In person. Enough of this childish silent treatment. Dad followed, already looking around my place like he was inspecting for flaws. You've caused enough damage, Eli. Time to fix it. I stayed by the door, arms crossed. There's nothing to fix. Mom spun toward me, her earrings catching the light. You humiliated Mason. You embarrassed us in front of Brooke's family. And now people are talking. Do you have any idea how hard this is for him? My laugh was sharp. Hard for him. He sat me by a trash can, Mom. He told me I wasn't family. And you said nothing. Her face tightened. It was a joke. I stepped closer. Then why did it feel exactly like every holiday, every birthday, every wedding photo I was left out of? You've been telling me I don't belong for years. Mason just finally said it out loud. Dad raised his voice, the way he always did when reason failed him. Enough. You're being selfish. Do you think life is about where you sit at dinner? Grow up, Eli. I felt my pulse hammer in my ears. No, Dad. It's about respect. And I finally realized I don't get any here. The tension was thick, vibrating like a wire about to snap. Mom's voice softened, the way it always did when anger didn't work. Eli, honey, family forgives. We raised you, we gave you everything. Don't throw that away over a misunderstanding. Her words almost landed, almost, but then I saw it clearly, the pattern. Every time, they minimized. Every time, I was too sensitive, too dramatic, too ungrateful. Every time, Mason was excused, and I was expected to carry the weight. I shook my head. You didn't give me everything. I gave you everything. I paid your mortgage. I helped when you couldn't. I showed up, even when you made it clear I didn't matter. They froze. For once, neither had a quick response. The silence stretched. Then Dad muttered, "We'll see you at the wedding. Don't make this worse." They left without another word, the door clicking shut behind them. I leaned against it, my chest rising and falling. My hands trembled, but not from fear, from release. For the first time, I had told them the truth. And I didn't care if they liked it. The wedding invitations arrived 2 weeks later. Heavy cream cardstock, gold embossed lettering, Brooke's careful handwriting on the envelopes. Mine wasn't addressed just to me, it read, Eli plus guest, optional. That word, optional, felt like a jab. Like they were saying, we know you'll show up alone, but here's the courtesy anyway. I left the envelope unopened on my kitchen counter for days. Every time I walked past it, the guilt and anger wrestled inside me. The family group chat had gone strangely quiet, which worried me more than the constant pings. Silence meant plotting. Silence meant they were waiting, letting me stew, hoping I'd cave and apologize before the big day. But then Mason broke it. Mason, hope you're coming. Wouldn't want you to regret missing the most important day of my life. Mason, and bring your wallet. Big families don't come cheap. No emojis. No jokes. Just entitlement, plain as ever. I didn't respond. 3 nights before the wedding, Jenna called again. They're saying you might not show, she said carefully. Is that true? I hesitated. Depends what you mean by show. She sighed. Eli, you know what Mason's like. But Brooke's family doesn't. If you don't come, they'll only hear his version of the story. They'll believe you're the bitter older brother who bailed out of jealousy. The word again. Jealous. It gnawed at me. What do you want me to do? I asked flatly. Smile through it while they sit me behind the kitchen doors this time? Her silence was heavy. No. But maybe you should go. Not for them, for yourself. So they can't erase you completely. I didn't answer right away. But the thought stuck. The night before the wedding, I barely slept. I kept imagining the seating chart, the looks, the whispers. The thought of Mom's tight smile, Dad's disapproving frown, Mason's smirk, it all churned in my stomach. By morning, I'd made my choice. I pulled out the navy suit again. The same one I wore to the engagement dinner. A silent reminder of the night they shoved me to the sidelines. I wasn't going for them. I was going for me. The venue was a sprawling country estate, manicured lawns and chandeliers big enough to crush a man if they fell. Guests in glittering gowns and tailored suits floated through the entrance. I walked in alone. No guest. No shield. Just me. The hostess at the check-in desk smiled politely. Name. Eli, I said. She scanned the list, then pointed toward the far side of the ballroom. You're seated at table 12. I followed her finger. The table was near the back. Not the worst spot, but not with family either. I swallowed hard. So that was it. Again, not family. I pulled out the chair and sat down. Alone. And this time, I decided, I wouldn't stay quiet. Table 12 filled slowly with distant relatives and acquaintances, second cousins I barely recognized, Brooke's co-workers, people who didn't matter enough to Mason to be seated closer. They smiled politely, introduced themselves, and then quickly turned to talk to one another. I sat silent, watching the head table across the room. Mason and Brooke, framed by towering floral arrangements, bathed in soft light like they were carved out of a magazine spread. My parents sat beside them, laughing, clinking glasses, every bit the proud hosts. Every now and then, Mom's eyes flicked toward me. Just a glance. Tight, calculating, as if checking to make sure I'd stay in my corner. The ceremony itself had been flawless. Polished. Perfect. But now, during the reception, the real theater began. Toasts. Applause. Endless declarations of family, unity, love. When Dad stood to speak, I already knew where it was going. He lifted his glass, his voice booming. Tonight, we celebrate not just Mason and Brooke, but the strength of family. Through thick and thin, we support each other. That's what it means to be us. The words stung like vinegar in an open wound. Support each other. Family. I sat at the back table, alone, the same way I always had. The guests applauded. My parents smiled. Mason smirked. I felt the heat in my chest build. My palms itched. 4 years, I'd been silent, the dependable background character in their story. But now, sitting at table 12 with nothing left to lose, I realized something. Silence was exactly what kept me there. So I stood. My chair scraped against the polished floor, the sound cutting through laughter and clinking glasses. Heads turned. The room quieted just enough. I picked up my glass of water, not champagne, not wine, just water, and raised it. My voice carried steady, clear. To family, I said. The kind that invites you to dinner but seats you by the trash. The kind that asks you to pay the bill but tells you you're not one of them. The kind that celebrates unity while leaving their own at the farthest table. A ripple of shock moved through the crowd. Brooke's mother gasped. Someone dropped a fork. I kept going, my pulse steady for the first time in years. I've spent my whole life being told I was too serious, too sensitive, too much or never enough. But tonight I want to thank you, because you've made something very clear. I set my glass down with a sharp clink. Family isn't about blood. It's about respect. And I don't see much of it here. For a moment, silence reigned. Then Mason shot up from his chair, red-faced. Sit down, Eli. You're ruining everything. But the damage was done. Gasps. Murmurs. Eyes wide, darting between me, Mason, and my parents. The perfect facade of unity had cracked in front of everyone. And for once, I wasn't the one shrinking in shame. The ballroom erupted in whispers, a low buzz that felt louder than the band. Mason's face was crimson, his hands balled into fists at his sides. God, Eli, he spat, his voice cracking with fury. Why do you always have to make everything about you? I didn't move. Didn't flinch. My voice was calm, steady. Funny. I thought I wasn't part of anything at all. Brooke tugged on Mason's sleeve, her eyes darting nervously to her parents. Mason, sit down. You're making it worse. But Mason wasn't hearing it. He jabbed a finger in my direction. You're pathetic. Always have been. Always hiding behind your responsibility act because you're jealous that people actually like me. That word again. Jealous. The lie they'd built to excuse everything. I took a breath, then let the truth spill. Jealous? No. Mason. I'm tired. I'm tired of paying for the family that mocks me. I'm tired of showing up for people who never show up for me. I'm tired of being treated like an outsider in my own bloodline. The room hushed again. Guests shifted uncomfortably, caught between spectacle and sympathy. Then Brooke's father rose slowly, his chair scraping back. His voice was sharp, deliberate. You invited this man, your brother, and treated him like trash at your engagement dinner? The color drained from Mason's face. It was a joke, he muttered. Brooke's father shook his head, disappointed. If that's your idea of a joke, maybe you're not ready for marriage. A collective murmur rippled through the guests. My mother shot to her feet, her mask cracking. That's enough, Eli. Sit down before you destroy your brother's wedding. I turned toward her, my voice quieter but cutting all the same. I didn't destroy anything, Mom. You did. Every time you laughed while I was excluded. Every time you called me sensitive instead of standing up for me. Tonight, you finally get to see what it looks like when I stop pretending. Her lips parted, but no words came out. For once, she had no script to cover this moment. I picked up my coat from the back of the chair at table 12. Enjoy your wedding, I said, not looking at Mason this time. I'm done. And then I walked toward the exit, the crowd parting like a tide. Some guests stared. Some whispered. A few looked at me with something that felt like respect. When I reached the doors, I heard Mason's voice break behind me, louder than he intended. Mom, do something. But she didn't. I pushed the doors open and stepped out into the cool night air. This time, there were no calls. No buzzing texts. Just silence. And for the first time, it didn't feel empty. It felt free. The night air outside the venue felt sharp and clean, like I'd walked through fire and finally come out the other side. The music and chatter inside dulled behind the heavy doors, replaced by the soft hum of crickets and the rustle of trees along the driveway. I stood there for a moment, coat over my arm, watching guests through the tall windows. Chandeliers glowed above them, champagne glasses lifted again as if nothing had happened. The show went on. It always did. But this time, I wasn't part of it. My phone was heavy in my pocket. I knew what waited: angry texts, guilt-laced voicemails, Mason's half-baked attempts to make me the villain. For years, I would have opened them instantly, desperate to defend myself, desperate to claw my way back into their approval. Tonight, I didn't. I turned the phone off. The drive home was quiet. Streetlights cast long shadows across the pavement, and with each mile, I felt lighter. Like I was leaving more than just the wedding behind, I was leaving decades of being the afterthought, the background, the easy target. When I walked into my apartment, I didn't collapse into anger or regret. I brewed a cup of tea, sat by the window, and watched the city lights flicker against the dark sky. For the first time, I realized something simple. I wasn't angry anymore. Hurt, yes. But anger? That had burned away on the ballroom floor. What remained was clarity. Family isn't the people who share your last name. Family is the ones who see you, who respect you, who don't need to humiliate you to feel taller. For too long, I'd mistaken obligation for love, blood for loyalty. But sitting alone that night, I finally understood. I had been giving family to people who had never truly given it back. And I didn't need their table anymore. I could build my own. With friends who checked in because they cared, not because they needed something. With cousins like Jenna, who believed me when no one else did. With people who wanted me there, not out of duty, but out of choice. That was family. The rest? Just noise. I lifted my tea, the steam curling in the lamplight, and whispered to the quiet room. To family. Not the one I was born into. The one I would choose. And for the first time in my life, the words didn't feel empty. They felt true.